I didn't expect the house to be this old. The pictures online had made it look charming, rustic, but with modern amenities that seemed like the perfect balance for someone like me, newly relocated to this small town. It was everything I had hoped for after months of searching. A fresh start, far from the chaos of the city. When I first walked through the front door, the smell of dust and old wood filled my nostrils, but it wasn't unpleasant. There was a certain comfort to it, a feeling of history lingering in the air. The house sat at the end of a narrow street, Willow Lane, surrounded by tall trees and shrouded in an eerie quiet that I couldn't quite place. It felt like the whole street was holding its breath, waiting for something. But I chalked it up to being unfamiliar with the area. The first few days were peaceful, almost too peaceful. The kind of stillness you don't get in a city. I spent my time cleaning, unpacking, and making the house my own. The walls were lined with dark wood paneling. The floors creaked with every step, and the ceilings were high, making the house feel vast. There were 3 floors, the top one with a small attic that I was too afraid to explore at first. I had no idea why, but something about the attic unsettled me. On the 3rd night, after I had settled in, I decided to explore a bit more. The house had a kind of haunted allure to it, like something was watching me from the shadows. I was trying to ignore it. After all, it was just an old house. What could possibly go wrong? I went up to the attic, torch in hand. The staircase leading up was narrow and steep, and the door at the top creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, the attic was filled with old furniture covered in dusty sheets, boxes that hadn't been touched in years, and a thick layer of cobwebs in every corner. The air was musty, almost suffocating. I walked deeper into the room, curious about the old trunks stacked against the walls. As I began to open one of the trunks, I noticed something strange on the floor. A pattern, like a strange marking scratched into the wood. I knelt down to get a closer look. The markings were almost deliberate, like someone had carved them there recently. I couldn't make out the symbols, but there was something about them that made my skin crawl. Then, a cold gust of air brushed against my neck, making me freeze. The attic had no windows, and yet the air around me felt suddenly sharp, colder than before. I quickly stood up and turned to leave, but that's when I saw it. Something in the far corner, something that hadn't been there before. A figure. A dark, shadowy figure standing in the corner, just beyond the edge of the light. My heart raced, and I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't turn. The knob was stuck. I panicked, pulling at it desperately, but the door remained locked. The figure in the corner didn't move. It was just there, its presence suffocating the room. Then, the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from behind me. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat, but the figure was gone. The attic was empty. I stood frozen, trying to steady my breathing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. I finally managed to open the door and rushed down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop until I was back in my bedroom, locking the door behind me. I tried to calm myself, telling myself that I was just imagining things, that it was all in my head. But the next morning, something was off. I found small marks on the floor, like tiny indentations in the wood, leading from the attic door to the bottom of the staircase. They were like the prints of small, cold feet. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to admit that something in the house was watching me. So, I ignored it, telling myself I was just adjusting to my new home. The next few nights, however, things grew worse. It started with whispers, soft, barely audible voices, coming from the walls. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, hearing someone muttering just beyond the edge of my hearing. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It wasn't comforting. It was malicious, almost mocking. Then came the dreams. At first, they were vague, fleeting nightmares that I could barely remember when I woke up. But soon, they became more vivid, more real. In one dream, I was trapped in the attic again, unable to escape, while the figure circled around me, getting closer. Its face never fully visible, just a dark mass of shadows. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, as if they were trying to tell me something important. One night, I woke up with a start, drenched in sweat, and the air in the room was frigid. I looked around, but the room was empty. Still, the whispers didn't stop. They were louder now, clear and sharp, like they were coming from beneath the floorboards. "Get out! Get out of my house!" I screamed and ran out of the room, down the stairs, my mind racing. I couldn't take it anymore. Something in this house wanted me gone, and I was beginning to fear that it wouldn't stop until it had what it wanted. The next morning, I couldn't bring myself to go back upstairs. But when I walked past the attic door, I saw it. A message, scrawled hastily in black chalk across the doorframe. "You're not alone." I called the landlord, demanding to know more about the house's history. He hesitated for a moment before telling me the truth. The house had been built in the 1800s, and the previous owner had mysteriously disappeared. They'd been living alone in the house, and neighbors reported hearing strange noises late at night, whispers, screams, as if someone or something was trapped inside. But that wasn't the worst part. The landlord told me the one thing I had to know. No one stays in that house for long. That's when I realized it wasn't just a house. It was a trap designed to keep you here forever, whether you wanted to be or not. The figure, the whispers, the marks, they were all part of it, part of the curse that had been here long before I ever moved in. I packed my things, but as I reached the front door, it wouldn't open. I pulled, I yanked, but the door remained shut tight, as if the house was holding me in. And then I heard it again. The footsteps coming closer, getting louder. The figure was in the house now, and it wasn't going to let me leave.